I thought sex would just be this constant thing. Like, oh my gosh, we finally get to have sex, unlimited sex, gumnandi, and gumnandi vele emshadweni. Please. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, The Masegos. I am Michelle.
And I am Anele.
And today we decided to discuss our first year of marriage and just share some insights. As always, we want to thank you guys for watching, supporting our channel, helping our little family grow. We hope you're enjoying everything that we're putting out.
Yep.
Because we're enjoying making it and reflecting. And yeah, today's video is going to be pretty interesting. So yeah.
Hope you enjoyed this one.
We've almost
Probably gonna be a tough one.
I hope it's not, but yeah. We've been married for almost 5 years. 5 years in July the 28th. Yeah, so we just thought, let's just share the changes, the shocks, the things that came with our first year of marriage.
Yeah.
And how that was. Yeah, and I think looking at the first point, which was that it was a shock in the system.
Oh, you got a shock.
Oh.
Well,
Or should I elaborate what I mean?
yeah, that's your shock.
Okay, it's fine.
I had no shock.
You had no shocks. Okay. So when I say a shock in the system, I think there was just this fairy tale idea in my head, I think in his head as well, that when you get into your marriage setup, that everything's going to be roses, like it's just going to be everything you imagine. Like you have an idea, it's finally, because we didn't live together before marriage, it's part of our beliefs and things. So now we're finally living together and you're like, it's just going to be honeymoon phase every day. Like I'm just going to be on cloud 9 every day. Right? This over sensationalized idea in your head, that was what was in my head. And just this perfectionist ideal, I feel like I struggle with perfectionism a lot. So if anything is just a little offside, it's like a huge knock. That's how it was. A lot worse. I'm a lot better with it now. But in our marriages particularly, I found it so difficult that like little things would get under my skin, like clothes on the side, just thrown to the side, and like I don't know, just little stuff, man, and just adjusting to living together, sharing the space, and just figuring each other's patterns and things like that. Yeah, it was a huge shock. And then the positive side of that is that this is actually happening. Like I'm actually living with this person every day. Like, is this real? We've waited so long for this. So there's just that huge excitement, which is still there. Like, I get to sleep next to this person every day and wake up together and like live life together. Because I don't want this to be like, we're scaring you about marriage. I just want it to be like very honest, that there are positives, and I guess the negatives is just fixing a mindset, really. So yeah, that's what I can say without going further. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Of course. Yeah, and I think you're right. We're not trying to scare anyone into getting married. In fact, we're actually doing the opposite.
Yeah.
We love this story. The story of people getting married, being together. It's very good. It's a great stability for a family. So yeah, but in terms of shocks that I got to experience, I think Michelle summarized everything really, without getting into too much detail because of time, of course. But yeah, I came into the marriage as well having an ideal image. This what's always gonna happen in my marriage. Things like, we're gonna be able to we were going to be able to resolve the problem on the day. You know how old people will tell you, they quote the scripture in the Bible that says, hey, don't let the sun go down
on your
anger. Hey, yeah, no, that was very tough. That was very tough because I was very, very hot-headed in terms of making sure that we sleep on good terms.
I just was never ready.
And she needs time to process a thing. The more I would go up in her face and
just make things worse.
And then I'm one of those who apologizes just for peace sake, and she's one of those who hates.
Like, you need to know why are you apologizing to me? I'm sure a lot of people can attest in the comments. You want, like, because I feel like that's how issues repeat themselves if you don't understand exactly where I'm coming from and how you exactly wronged me. It's going to pop up in a different way. And I feel like we've seen it in our marriage on both ends, not just on his end, where you're just like, you know what? Because this is someone that you love, you care about them, you want things to be okay, you want to be together, you want to cling to each other. And sometimes you're just like, like, you're not okay with whatever's happened. It's like hurt something or triggered something. But because you just want to go back to that state of unity, what you think is unity, you just then sweep things under the rug. Or you just apologize for the sake of apologizing. You think you're doing what needs to be done instead of like really getting through the issue and like confronting it, which is tough. And then it pops up even worse. That's the problem. So that's why I would fight that, because like I've mentioned vaguely, I've had my own personal like traumas and whatever. And it was very easy at the time to just sweep them under the rug and keep on going with life, But the problem is that they later manifest really badly. So I guess that's why I've been so adamant with him, since we got married, especially, like, we need to figure this thing out. Yes, it takes time for me to process things, but it's because I just want to make sure that I process it properly. And I think also we'll get into detail on this as well. Like, if sometimes you want to deal with things just then and there when your emotions are high, and then the underlying issue wasn't so bad, but because you're dealing with it in high tempers,
a very small thing becomes a very huge
thing. And now more things pop up because now maybe you're throwing insults, or like it's just now it's like the initial issue, like I'm sure people in relationships, or those who are married who watch our channel can relate. The initial issue maybe was like, I always laugh at this example that relates to us. The initial issue was a tea bag. So I once got upset with him. He made a cup of tea, didn't drink it, and then he just threw it away, right? I was like, why? You wanted it boiling. And I'm like, why almost tea? Now that tiny thing. And I'm like, wasting money, like, dealing with something like that in the moment, instead of me like, okay, like, babe, this, didn't sit well with me. Like, if you approach someone really level-headed, it's very hard for them to be like, they'll be like, okay, I see where you're coming from, But now, if you just deal with things very high-tempered, now it's another issue. Is how can you talk to me like that? No. It's not about the tea bag anymore. Now it's something else. Maybe you even bring in something else that's unrelated, and now it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and with what the point we made earlier as well about processing things, and then if you're just apologizing for it to pass, with it manifesting in the future, it might manifest really even like a year later or 2 years later, and the problem would be then she's trying to deal with it as a repeat offense, whereas I'm dealing with it as
it's a current
it's just a new thing that came up. Now I'm trying to handle it, and that causes a whole lot of problems, because there's a whole lot of misunderstanding,
so much to unpack now, and you could have just unpacked it initially. So but I think we just went deep into that, but I think it covered it's examples. I think it covered a lot of those points. But another point we had here was that conflict management was really bad in the beginning,
which relates to what we just
so our conflict management, because the little things we had, like pet peeves. Like I had a lot of pet peeves before him. I had stayed by myself, you know, so I did things in a particular way. I was not used to being this Miss Independent style, you know, that I didn't realize that, yes, I was so eager. I was dying to stay with this man for the longest time without realizing how comfortable I was already in my own space, which I mean was good for me as, you know, as a woman and whatever. But it was so hard adjusting with him. And like, the thing is, Anil is a very clean guy, very put together. He's not even like I think the men who are worse, and I can't even imagine how I would have. I don't know how I would have coped. I don't know how I would have coped. But he's such a clean guy, like with dishes and things. Like, he was raised really well. Shout out to his parents. So, I mean, the pet peeves were just like, I just realized like the little things that you never even thought of. I'm just thinking, like, he doesn't like close things tightly. Like, let's say with the shower or something, like maybe the body wash won't be closed to, like, you'll leave the lid open, or you'll use the handy was a thing. Like, after you've cleaned the surfaces and he doesn't, you know, close the cap. That was just a thing that would be like, okay, well, you know. And then just also with laundry, like just little tiny things that weren't like huge, but would get under my skin, and then we don't know how to manage that conflict. And I think he also had his own things. FIFA also was another thing, if we're being honest.
That one was a losing battle for her.
It was a losing battle for so long.
That was my first love.
And then with him, I think he'll just say, I also could just go into my own corner sometimes. And then, yeah, I think you'll elaborate, because I don't want to dominate this video. But conflict management.
Yeah, we're talking conflict management, right? Not the conflict situations.
Yeah. I was just using them to explain, but
all right. Yeah. You know, it's fine. I'll with the conflict management, without getting into detail, the actual conflicts. But I think like we touched on the first point, is when one apologizes, just to move on from it, which I've been very guilty of that, you know. And yeah, still do it a bit, but anyway. Those are the kind of things where it becomes very difficult then to deal with the situation, because the one person sees it as a build-up, the other one's only dealing with it, the surface, you know. And then it becomes a shock, like, why on earth are you overreacting, which is another huge thing, whereby I'll maintain my cool, you know, but she'd be shooting up, really angry, and eventually that would also get me really angry, because I'll be looking at it, I'm like, what the hell, this thing is not even that big, you know, that huge of an issue
to the other person.
And the fact that and when she's very frustrated, she shows you that she's frustrated, you know. So the way that she's got dimples and stuff, but you have to find them when she's angry. It's very tough. Yeah, so those kind of things. Another thing as well, another conflict management thing that I learned I also lacked were, for instance, when I'm now angry or frustrated, I wouldn't know what to do. We have an instance where I kicked a chair and I broke it. And I got crucified for that for like 3 years, you know. And to me, she felt so threatened, and she was now worried that I could beat her.
Yeah, you know, like if you watch a lot of these things, listen to a lot of things, like he starts off by beating the wall. He starts off by what. So I'm one of those, any little sign, you know, because my profession, you analyze things, you analyze the little things, and you analyze everything, you know, because you're auditing, right? So I took that also very seriously in my marriage first year, because I was like, why ukaba, like istulosam, and it was special to me, and it was a whole thing. I don't want to go into it, it's whatever now, but like it was such a weird position to be in, because I was like, I genuinely was like, is this person gonna be violent with me in future? But it was him not knowing how to. I think in marriage you realize that this is the one person who's gonna push you to the highest extent.
Yeah.
People outside of me, like everyone else in Anela's life, I mean, he gets along with them like a bed of roses, friendly, good, because he's a great guy. So, whoever encounters, it's great, it's good vibes, And then with like our relationship, probably not even probably, I am closest to him and I know the most intimate details about him. And because marriage unveils that, I think God designed it that way to unveil vulnerability. Sometimes you don't know how to deal with it. It becomes very uncomfortable because this person sees every side of you, and they also push you to the highest extent. Like, yeah, but I think, after that whole situation and eventually once we got through it, I realized that no, this is not an indicator of this.
3 years later.
This is not an indicator of someone who's going to be abusive or whatever. It was just that heightened frustration in the moment, and I mean, I think he easily could have. I've also done silly things like take walks out at night in CBD. When you just act crazy. We've had our crazy moments and then you come back to character and then you grow in the marriage,
Yeah.
So
with me though, with the kicking the share thing, it would be, I looked at it as frustration that when you're playing with FIFA, you're playing friends.
Yeah, you just kick a bottle or whatever.
Or you in a football pitch, a football match, and maybe you're getting subbed off, kick a bottle, or you kick the ground or something like that, So I never thought of it as something that would intimidate her.
So
and make her see.
As a football guy, he was like, this is just a football reaction.
Yeah.
And me as an analytical, I listen to all sorts of podcasts, abuse, I was like,
a very fortunate person who's never been in an abusive relationship.
In my mind, I was like, what did I just walk into? What is happening? Did I miss it in the 8 years of dating? 8 years, he's been gentle. He's been absolutely lovely. Am I seeing his true side now?
Yeah, because when we're dating, it would be easier to, if I'm very frustrated, it's like,
just leave.
It's all right, and then I'm going home or something. Yeah, now I had nowhere to go.
Yeah,
I'm literally stuck here. And it was very tough, but you learned, you develop, and like she said, you come up with mechanisms or mechanics to deal with, to cope. And what I do, I take a walk. What do you do? You have your own things.
Yeah, I just take a moment, I just process my emotions. I think through it. I keep busy.
Withdraws from me.
Yeah, I withdraw. I think
it lives like I don't exist.
Yeah, in the beginning it was really bad.
It was very bad in the beginning.
Yeah, because I'd ice him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even a greeting.
Not even a greeting. But you have to grow through such things, and just looking back at the first year, you go in there thinking, oh my goodness, I actually didn't really know this person, but it's just because. And that's not true. It's just because you're adjusting to each other.
Yeah.
And there's just something I think that's so sacred about getting married, getting into that covenant with God that demands of you to unveil everything that's wrong within yourself. Never mind your spouse. It's just a divine light. It's like now you were dating, you were just there in the shadows, and now you come and you're exposed. And it's very uncomfortable, and you want to blame the other party that, okay, I don't know how to manage conflict. I personally struggle to give grace to the other person, or I don't know how to, or like my anger, I don't know how to control my anger, or I say things in anger that are not good. And you don't have these interactions with other people, your friends and whatever, your family, your siblings. And you have this false sense of, oh, I'm this great person. Not that you're not great, but you just feel like there's no faults really. And then you get married and you have to be intimate with this person. and it just shows, like, it really humbles you, hey. Because initially you think, you're the one who has a lot going on that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And a lot of triggers, and because you grew up in different backgrounds as well, you know, it's having to accommodate someone. It's like, I think marriage honestly is the highest level of self-pruning. And look, you're looking at your spouse is looking at yourself, everything that's wrong with you, and having to work on that all the time. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it's very true as well. Just to add one last point, with revealing yourself and being vulnerable with your partner, I had very, very difficult times, breakdown, you know, at times, because it would hurt me so much when I evaluate myself and I'm like, nah, man, I've got students, I've got colleagues, I've got friends I play football with, friends I play FIFA with, and even people I don't necessarily get along well with, or my opponents on the field when we're playing, you know, but you're able to build some sort of camaraderie, you know, with them. And I just am able to navigate all my relationships so well. But the one person that I spend all my time with, I sleep with, I eat with, I do everything with, that's the one person that I'm struggling to have that smooth relationship with,
unity, you know? That closeness.
It never made sense to me, because like I said, our fights would sometimes extend to a longer period than they should, you know. And so that was the harsh lesson we had to learn also with marriage, because while I'm impatient that this thing is going on, it's been 2 days now, for example, nothing is happening, and she's processing or whatever it is happening, we're going to work, we're coming back, the same problem is still here, or maybe not the same problem, but the repercussions of it are still being experienced. The other one is not talking to the other one. I've told this to a friend of mine before, that being single and sleeping alone in a bed is not the worst thing that could happen to you. The worst thing that could happen to you is being married with someone right next to you. You're facing one way, they're facing the other way, and you're just hearing them breathe, and you're wondering, when on earth am I gonna fall asleep? You know, those are the worst periods that I think we experienced, and it's all because we couldn't deal with conflict. You know, you start even questioning, so I've failed. I couldn't even make it past a year. I couldn't even make it to a year of marriage, and that's it. You're imagining the embarrassment you're gonna go through going back home.
I'm just thinking, what do I tell the
and then people are still happy for you. You're married. How's marriage? And you have to be like, oh no, it's incredible.
God, we look up to you guys. That time you just say like,
but on a serious note, Johan, I think for people who are maybe the first year of marriage, and it's not just first year, really, let's say 18 months. It does get tough before it gets really good and gets so much easier, you know. It honestly, it doesn't get worse as time goes. It gets much easier,
especially if you stay in and you keep trying. It won't stay that way. This is for people who were meant to get married, of course, because I know, hey, please.
I know if you're getting beaten, guys.
We're not promoting unholy marriages. I know there are some people just force marriages, and I'm not gonna go into that. We have orange flags, red flags, video, or things we would have considered deal breakers. We're saying if your relationship was good, it was healthy, you believe God put you together and you got married and things are tough, it will get better.
Exactly. I remember someone say to me, with marriage, it's not like school. In school, you register for your course, and then once you've registered, then the difficult part starts. Then once you have conquered, you get a certificate, your degree or your diploma or whatever it is. With marriage, you get the certificate when you begin. Then the tough work begins, But I assure you, honestly, it gets a lot easier later on, because the truth of the matter is just learning to manage situations. It's management. You're just learning to manage situations, learning to manage yourself, which is honestly the toughest thing. Yeah, because your partner is gonna get you to a place where you start even questioning yourself, like, am I really this way? Is this really me? And it's very uncomfortable to get there, and you become afraid of that. And the best disguise for fear is anger. So when people are afraid or uncomfortable, anger is easier to display rather than fear.
Then to be vulnerable and accept.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm sorry I took long.
I also took long. Conflict was the hardest thing in our marriage first year. So I hope you guys got some insight. But
oh, and one thing. Don't flash the divorce card at each other's faces. That will just kill whatever it is that you're trying to build. Where now the one is saying, I can't take this. I can't believe I did this. I'm going home. I'm ending this. Like
just throwing in the towel.
Absolutely. That's gonna undo everything you have done. Everything you've built. Yeah. All right. I'm done.
Which I think the next point is sex.
I won't say a thing. You'll
But I think the expectations of getting into marriage, or let me speak for myself, he will speak on it. He needs to speak on it.
It's the part where my mom's like, you want to speak about everything on the channel?
Hey, for anyone who's old, who's uncomfortable, click out here, please. We're gonna this is for people who are gonna get married or planning to, our friends, peers,
or in marriage,
It's just the honest truth. Just got married, whatever. But I thought sex would just be this constant thing. Like, oh my gosh, we finally get to have sex, unlimited sex. Gumnandi and gumnandi vele emshadweni, please, Okay, I'm serious now. But sex is very important, and I thought with we're gonna have so much sex, like the chemistry valley, during dating had always been intense. You're like, finally, you think you both have the same level of sex drives and all of that, and it's great, it's wonderful, especially I know the world preaches this whole thing of having sex with multiple partners, and as if you need to have sex with everyone in test drive. Can't speak on that, I don't know that, but I just know the beauty of being vulnerable, especially like we mentioned, the whole conflict thing forces you to be vulnerable. Hey, the making up after the conflict and you're vulnerable and you're making up was, but
sometimes would suspect this person is just fighting me.
Hey,
just so that we can make up.
we can make up after. But seriously now, I think there was just this misconception in my head that I would be always good to go all the time, and we just have this intense amount of sex, and it would just be consistent all the time.
Making up for lost time.
But it was not like that. And I think when something is not, when you can't have something, you want it more. But now when you have it, you kind of become complacent. For me, it was at times you get in the routine and you get tired and you just like, work is like, it's not like our life stopped. Like life continued, we were still going to work, etc., etc., etc. So I wasn't down for it as frequently as he was. And you kind of feel that mismatch, and it kind of, for me, I know I would feel bad and be like, oh, I feel like I should be up for it because he's up for it, and you feel I felt bad for like turning him down and all of that stuff. But yeah.
What must I say?
How was your expectations?
Oh no, my expectations are obviously high. The highest standard, Yeah, and was the thing was the standard was being met initially, for instance, because obviously the excitement of marriage, the aura around it.
Yeah, and that's all you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually that aura, yeah.
Yeah, and then when it dropped, it was very difficult for me to deal with rejection.
Yeah.
Firstly, that was that was a new thing. It was a new thing, and it would make me feel like, so Vela, I'm not wanted. Is there something that I'm lacking?
Yeah.
I would ask her, like, do I not do enough? Because I do an awful lot,
Yeah.
So it will be those kind of things.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what is it? Are you unhappy?
And it's not even that.
And she would explain, like, oh, well, she wouldn't understand as well what she's going through. So she would say things like, had a long day at work, for instance, and then I would have an expectation. I'm like, well, look, we all have long days at work, at work. And so I felt like I would view it as an excuse, and then she'd come up with a new excuse, genuinely, that's how it seemed to me,
And you took it very personally.
Yeah.
There's something off now, like,
Yeah.
It's not like that at all.
Yeah. And so it was very difficult to process that. It was very difficult to be understanding of that. I think what helped me with that, to be honest with you, was also listening to other men going through the same thing, because this is a normal problem for man and woman in a relationship.
Mismatched sex drives.
Yeah. And I think that helped me actually, because another problem would have is she would look at it, and when I'm very frustrated, maybe I'm thinking, in my mind, all I'm thinking is, it's been a week, Joe. Like a week. And then she would say stuff like, come on, sex is not everything. And I'm like, I don't want to know,
Okay, but like, I think I just want to add a point also, which affected our sex life was...
Wait, let me finish my point though.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to defend myself a bit.
When she'd say things like, sex is not everything, it would be very frustrating, and I wouldn't say sex is everything, and I would say that sex is not everything, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And then that clash, that understanding would really cause a lot of problems. Yeah, but let me not finish off then. You say you want to...
So I just want to explain that when we first got married, obviously we didn't want to have kids right away. Boama Vanje had to wait, which was a great decision on our part. So obviously you need to put certain things in place. So the contraceptive I was using at the time really messed me up. I was using the copper IUD, for women who might want to know. And with that one, it can cause excessive periods, which I was going through, sometimes 2 weeks at a time. And with just that depletion of blood, and I think there's even a time I had to leave church because I bled so much. I don't want to go into details, but I made sure to make sure that I'm good, like multiple layers and tampons and everything. But still, I managed to bleed so much through my dress. Sorry for the gents who are watching who don't want that image, but
Yeah.
that's how bad it was. So I was super weak with this contraceptive, and it would affect, obviously. So now when I'm not bleeding, and it's now like,
Yeah.
you know, they're just those factors, to be very blunt and honest. And I think that's what really affected me, because I got it before we got married. I think like a month before we got married, I'm like, oh, you know,
The honeymoon.
Yeah, honeymoon. I want things to be good. Let me make sure we see good rides, because we're not trying to have kids yet, you know. And then,
Yeah.
So
No.
yeah,
Needed to touch Jesus' garment.